Hello, I'm an interpreter. I've been working in different places on the borders of Greece, in different camps, like for instance Moria, at the camp of Moria in Lesbos, on the island of Kos, with Mission Sileros, and right now I'm deployed on the island of Samos. I have been working with the High Commissioner of the United Nations with the refugees, doing interpretation for the new arrivals, information for the new arrivals, information provision and community engagement inside the camp, going from tent to tent, container to container. Container is the good condition, usually is an improvised structure, like a tent. Interpretation during meetings between communities, let's say the Farsi-speaking community with French-speaking community. Interpretation for protection sessions for unaccompanied minors or abused people, abused women, for instance. Legal aid for these, for the aforementioned, legal aid for victims of torture inside the detention centers, what we call prokeka here, inside the camp, and medical also interpretation of the hospitals. I'm also doing the interviews for the asylum service officers, and the notification registrations and the notifications. Notifications is when we give them the decision after the interview. It can be negative or positive. Usually it's negative. Two things that I would like to say straight from the beginning, methodologically speaking. First of all, I'm not allowed to take pictures. I'm not allowed to be in a picture. I'm not allowed to record voices or to record names, because first of all, I'm the voice of the asylum seeker during his whole procedure while his status is determined, and when I'm doing an interview or what we call a protection of the UN, from the beginning I'm saying that I swear I'm under the principle of confidentiality, and what I hear in this room stays in this room. I cannot discuss anything outside these walls. And the other thing is that I have to show that I'm impartial, that I'm not connected to any applicant, that I'm treating all applicants equally, that I'm related to no one. The second thing I wanted to say is that you hear me using the term asylum seeker and not refugee. This is a term we use with the UN. According to UN, this mixed forced movement of migration, of displacement, they call it mixed migration. It means that there are people from different backgrounds for different reasons doing the same journey, using the same route and with the same means of transport, but they do that for different reasons. So with the exception of people that are coming from war zones, let's say that the case of Syria or Palestine, all the rest of the people that are in this displacement, they have to prove that they can have an international protection, because their life is in danger and they cannot go back to their country in any way. They have to show that there is persecution because of their, let's say, political or religious beliefs, for their sexual orientation, and it has to be proved that this is true and this is well based in order to have the status of a refugee. Whereas the refugees of war, there are straight from the beginning a group that, according to international law, is differently protected. So it's better for the refugees to clarify that. So, in my case, in my talk, what do I mean by difficult heritage? Um, these people, the asylum seekers, they have an identity and a heritage that they carry with them. They respect it. You can see the elements of this identity, of this heritage, inside the camp. But at the same time, these elements are connected to their post-traumatic stress and to images that they won't forget. But also they have to prove to the authorities that they kind of judge and decide for their lives, that they can be integrated into another place. So they are in this transitional phase. What is the job of the interpreter in this transitional phase? The interpreter is the asylum seeker's voice. And of course, it is a job, but it involves an emotional procedure for us, the interpreters, as well. And it's not only due to the fact that you feel the tension on your shoulders, that you are responsible for this person's life that you have in front of you, that you can be the medium to save his life and change his life forever, or her life forever. But at the same time, because the interpretation is done in the first person, you kind of identify with the asylum seeker. So if you have a raped woman, and she's saying that I was raped in this and this way, that did this and this to me, you kind of identify, you cannot help but feeling close to this person. So I'm going to show you what I see inside the camp with these eyes that are becoming sometimes the eyes of the asylum seeker. The first time that I thought of being inside the liminality space of a camp was when I started working the very first day after the shock of the new arrivals, when I had people practically drowned and trying to find out if their family members of the family have survived. I was doing an interpretation for a kid, a minor, and the psychologist at a certain point said, you know, this is just a transition in your life. This is not forever. And, you know, after a while, I realized that we, the interpreters, in a way, when we are leaving our jobs and going, you know, out, we hang out at night, for instance, we are we are behaving like teenagers. And we said that we do that in order to release all this tension from all these horrible images and what we witness every day. And then we said that we are the only ones that we understand each other and what we are suffering and what we're living inside the camp, and how we get emotionally attached to the asylum seekers. And then, since I had this education as a folklorist, I thought of Van Genep's theory. I said, this transition, okay, you have the asylum seeker, first phase leaving the country of origin, then the transition inside the camp with us, and then integration into the other place, the third step. What is my role? I remember Seremetakis and Douglas's words that in a way, I remember that I used that in my thesis for the women that they're mourning during burial customs. But it's not that it's the same thing, but in a way I could see that we are kind of getting out of the world of order with the rational thinking. We go in the liminal space with these people, we blend in there, and we help them outside any rational thinking of the outside world to pass to the other side. And this place, the camp, which is the place of transition, it's despite the contradictions inside, it is a productive space, hybrid space, where new forms of cultural production also are born through coexistence or the situations, the new conditions, and it blurs the limitations of existing boundaries. But at the same time, the people inside the camp are not identifiable people, unidentifiable people. They have their own identity, and I'm going to show you some examples how this is shown. So my examples are mainly from the African community, because as I told you, I'm interpreting French and English. So, for instance, regarding the language, each community each community keeps their own language. For instance, is Ewe for the Togo people, Lingala for people from Congo, or Olof from people for the Niger. But at the same time, since they live in a place that they hear other languages, they learn the other languages. So we're using also words from other languages. So everybody in the camp knows what a vakil is, which is in Punjabi, the lawyer, and especially terminology that has to do with the procedure of the asylum seeking. So, I don't know, El Mohammiya in Arabic, which is the lawyer. And they also learn very easily the Greek words, especially the young kids. Yes, today I remember I saw a child and we asked him, how you doing in Greek? And he understood Greek. And he said, timpalevo, which means that I'm hanging in there, which is a very, argo, everyday word. And they pick it up, especially the kids. The second thing is that each community listen to their music and cook their own food in their households in inverted commas. And if you go around the camp, among other things, because of the poor hygienic conditions, it smells terribly. But you have this blend of African and Afghani and cuisine in the air. And everybody gets to know the food of the other person, of the other people, of the other community. And they also form a small kind of business. They sell, for instance, falafel, or they sell CDs. Or they have, in the case of the Africans, they have fortune tellers. Of course, they always keep the tradition. For instance, for the Muslim people, they have to the meat has to be halal meat, permissible according to the Islamic law. That the animal will be slaughtered in a precise way and to call the name of Allah at the moment of the slaughter. And so outside around the camp, it's a little form of business. Also, there are Pakistanis. Having little mini markets, and so that the asylum seekers can find their food there. And there are also Greek restaurants that introduced in these places where there are hotspots. They introduce halal meat in their menus as well for these people. Then it is the dress code, which is there. It's is a challenge. You have the Arabic speaking community where the women, for instance, they are very conservative, covered. At the same time, you have the African women who are practically moving inside the camp practically naked. And they also in everyday life, for instance, the Africans can have sex everywhere. So the conservative people, from the Arabic-speaking countries are really shocked and they are complaining. But at the same time, when we have these meetings between communities, they find bridges between them because they see that they are facing the same issues, like surviving in the camp, the bad conditions, the fact that there are drug dealing inside the camps and black market inside the camp, and especially between women, you can see that they understand that have common problems regarding the issues and the concern about the kids. And sometimes you can see that mothers help each other. So, there is you can see an African woman going inside the office, for her decision, and an Arabic-speaking woman will hold the kid for her. So at this point, they heal, all these gaps that has to do with mentality. Regarding the dress code, the Arabic-speaking the women Muslim, they are covered, but you see the young girls from, slowly you can see them wearing only jeans and short sleeves afterwards, and they kind of like to integrate into the fashion that they see around them, with the other teenagers in the country where they're staying temporarily. And the African women are always very well dressed, and they never give up. They will stay outside the tent, fixing their dreadlocks for each other. They're always perfect with nice colors, holding the kids with this big tissue around them. The other thing is that they always find a place for worship, like a church, and you can hear the Africans chant there. But for the Muslims, it's different. You can hear them even during the day inside the camps because they have the different times during the day that they pray. So I'm not allowed to register people, but I just once registered the voices that I was hearing inside the camp. I don't know if with this method now, there are also birds flying. So this was, you can hear the prayers inside the camp during different times of the day. They respect, the communities respect each other's religion very much. And the last thing which was very impressive is that they created a kind of ritual when you have a positive decision. At the beginning, we thought that it was an upheaval inside the camp. We couldn't realize what it is. But then we thought that it was with a lot of, it was something happy and with a lot of improvised percussion, like drums. And they told us, the asylum seekers told us that this is the ritual that they do when somebody has a positive decision, which means an international protection or a refugee status. And that was very touching, because you can see all the communities, meeting into this, and celebrating this passage to the next stage of their lives. Well, once I was in a friend's house who is a caseworker, it means that's responsible for the interviews. She was actually there with her sister, who are both they are both caseworkers, and they were saying to me, you, Eugenia, you do not understand because you lived in a multicultural societies like the US and Paris and France, but for us, it's so strange that we feel now, after working in the camp and the asylum service office, we are feeling so familiar with different cultures and different customs, different languages. We look on the Facebook and our friends, and we see people from all these different places. And I think that this is exactly how everybody that is in the camp feels. And this is something really exciting and charming, and I really appreciate that this is a life-changing experience to live inside the camp and be part of this transition. Thank you.